I remember at the beginning, one thing that prompted you to talk to me was that you wanted to run your half marathon and you knew that you needed to fuel yourself and you didn't want to give that up, which maybe you kind of thought you needed to give it up to be able to lower your A1C further, but you were able to do it, which is
I was.
huge.
Yeah, it is. It's huge.
Hmm.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
It's good. It's really good.
And
Yeah.
I want to dig in a little bit. Describe how your life was like, or what your life was like before joining Drop Diabetes.
So I was diagnosed as pre-diabetic in December of 2018. I actually went to the doctor because I have white coat syndrome in a doctor's office. My blood pressure is always high, and my OBGYN wanted me to get a workup by a PCP before they would keep prescribing me birth control pills. So I went in because of my blood pressure. And so I was really shocked to get a diagnosis of pre-diabetes because I exercised 5 or 6 days a week, and I was kind of living by the 80-20 like life where I was like healthy 80% of the time, but I let myself indulge. So I was really surprised. My A1C at the time was, I think, 6.3. And I kind of like spiraled to like restrict. Like starting immediately from that diagnosis in 2018, I basically cut out any carb that wasn't like I allowed myself like a cup of berries a day, and I allowed myself like a sweet potato or two a week. And then other than that, the only source of carbohydrates in my life were like vegetables. And like, I mean, a cucumber does not have very much carbohydrate, but like that was my carbohydrate.
Mm-hmm.
And so I was living a very highly restricted life. And it worked initially. It dropped my A1C down. I got down, slowly to like a 5.7, but I lived a life of a really probably like clinically disordered relationship with food and eating, where it was there wasn't a lot of pleasure in eating, and I'm a person who loves to bake, loves to cook, takes a great deal of joy in feeding other people. And so I just fed all the other people, and my life became a series of like, what recipes can I find on Pinterest that aren't super high in fat, because I didn't want to do keto because I don't eat meat and that just sounded gross, but also were as low in carbs as I could go and function and still exercise 5 or 6 days a week and live my life. And that was it. There was no joy or pleasure for me in eating.
Mm-hmm.
And then after 4 years, my A1C started to creep back up without any changes in my eating at all. And I got really frustrated because I was restricting without getting a payoff anymore.
Yeah, absolutely. So, to recap that, you went on that very restrictive diet. Mentally, it took a toll, and you did get your A1C to 5.7, and then it kind of started to creep back up a little bit. And so now, fast forward to after drop diabetes, what has changed for you, both mentally and also in your numbers?
Right. Oh, and also just to throw back in there, sorry, I lost 20 something pounds very quickly and got
Sure.
a lot of support and a lot of validation for that weight loss. Like rebought my entire wardrobe. And as my A1C started to creep up over the last 9 months before starting drop diabetes, my weight started to creep up as well without any change to anything either. So then I found you on Instagram. I just started to kind of find dietitians and nutritionists who were science-based and science-backed, who were talking about finding ways to live their lives and help with diabetes without being so incredibly restrictive and without being so kind of a slave to a certain way of very restrictive eating. So we started working together in November 1st, actually. It was like right after Halloween. And honestly, the first couple of weeks were really hard, but probably for the exact opposite reason that most people find it hard. Like I would imagine most people find changing their way of eating hard because they are eating less stuff than they're used to eating, or very like differently ways of like, eating, and for me it was adding carbs back into my life was very scary. I felt like I was, going to like I just didn't trust that it was going to work for me. Maybe it worked for these other people, but I'm here to tell you that like my genetic history is such. Both of my parents are type 2 diabetics, and in my mother's side of the family, it goes back several generations of type 2 diabetes. And I was like, well, it's going to work for other people, but it is not going to work for me.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm going to eat carbs, and I'm going to make everything worse, and I'm going to gain 20 pounds. And great, like this is going to be difficult. And it was like, I remember the first time I had a carbohydrate, like feeling shaky and like sweaty about it, right? Which isn't healthy, which is a really good sign that I needed the program. And slowly over the last, what are we in, April? So however many months that is, I've sort of learned to make peace with food a little bit. I've learned more about how to pair food so that I can eat a carbohydrate and not have it, like skyrocket my blood sugar in a way that is, not great for someone who's pre-diabetic.
Mm-hmm.
And I've started to not fight food so much. It started to get some of that joy and pleasure back,
Yeah.
around eating. And to feel like I'm in control, not that the food is in control. So I'm in control, but in a way, not in a restrictive, like I have to control everything within a millimeter of its life, but in a way that like I have learned the tools, I know what to do, and so I can both still eat, a piece of toast, which was really big. Eating a piece of toast was like, that was big. Like eating a piece of toast with a little bit of butter, I can do that and still help manage my blood sugars. So, it's been life changing, particularly for my mental health. It's really been life changing for me.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. We always talk about the numbers, right? And your A1C, I'd love to, talk about the numbers too, but it's so important that the biggest thing for you when we started was I want to run my half marathon and I want to have a better mental health and less rigidness around food. And that is huge that that's been able to change for you, even though it's difficult, right? Our relationship with
Yeah,
food is hard.
yeah, it is. And and I'm a parent, and I also, I would couch my eating in terms of health. And so I would say, mom has this, predisposition to a metabolic condition. I'm not eating this way because I want to be, a certain size or a certain weight, but because I want to be healthy and be around for a long time. But even using that language, I still did worry, like, what messages am I sending to
Mm-hmm.
well, my son is in college, so he doesn't live with me anymore, but like my 16, almost 17-year-old daughter, like I wanted her to not have the fraught relationship with food that I've been experiencing. And so that was, it's not just my mental health, it's also like the mental health of everybody who lives in my house,
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
because
absolutely.
they were all, I'm the one who cooks food. So everyone is kind of beholden, and I don't make 7 meals. So everyone eats the way I eat, at least for
Right.
dinner. And so it's not just changed my own mental health. It's also, I think, affected the family system as well. I think there's a lot less heaviness around food and eating and dinner. I think in general, there's just a lot more, it's a lot more pleasant and a lot more fun. And my daughter was like, oh my God, mom, you had a bite of mashed potato. Like, are you like, how does that feel? Like, they're very aware of it, and it's good for them. It's good for her to see that as well.
Mm-hmm.
Because it's not just my own mental health, it's hers too.
Absolutely. I love that topic of how it affects the people around you too and your family. We often think of, how maybe people will have to accommodate for you as someone with type 2. Some people have that experience, some people have that opposite experience, more like you had. And I want to revisit that you went really restrictive right in the beginning. You dropped some weight, your A1C went down to 5.7. It kind of creeped back up. Your mental health kind of went down just a little bit, that relationship with food. Now, tell us about your numbers since joining Drop Diabetes. It must have been 6 months or so.
Yeah, so right, because my last blood test was in September, so my 6 month blood test was just 2 weeks ago, actually. And my fasting numbers are still a little high. They're at 114, but they're down from where they were, which I think was around 120. And my A1C went from 6.3 to 5.6. right? That's
Hmm.
the yeah.
Yeah.
I'm trying to remember it. And yeah, I honestly, I was shocked. I was
Hmm.
shocked. Like I really didn't believe. I thought like I was gonna like get the numbers and they were gonna be minorly better, but we would have to go back to the drawing board and kind of rework, the balance and build program, which is one of the reasons why I joined the program, is because I kind of knew I had that safety net and that parachute to pull, that if the numbers weren't what I wanted them to be, that I had like someone I trusted that I could go back to, and that we could look
Hmm.
at what I was actually eating and retweak those numbers. So I kind of, in my back pocket, I just had, that was my plan. Like that's how that was going to go. I was going to get my numbers. They were going to be better than 6.3, but not where I wanted them to be. And then we were going to go back and we were going to figure out if we needed to like change the numbers or change certain things. And so when my doctor told me that my A1C was 5.6, like I was stunned. Like you can hear it in my voice now. Even I
Hmm.
really was surprised, and of course incredibly pleased, but I still kind of pinch myself, like I still don't believe. And it's, to some people it might not seem like a lot of change to just go from 6.3 to 5.6. I know people have a lot bigger drops, especially because they're coming from a place where they
Right.
start higher. And so I also knew that was kind of working against me. Like I know my doctor had told me, like, look, it's much harder to drop things when you're just over the line than it is when you're way over the line. So the back of my head, I was like, it's going to take longer. It's not going to be as fit, like all these things. And to drop from pre-diabetic to not pre-diabetic to like a normal A1C in
Hmm.
less than 6 months, to me is incredible. Just incredible.
All while improving your relationship with food.
Dinner Friday night, we went to this really nice restaurant for dinner, and I had pepita crusted trout with cheese grits and asparagus. And I was like, I'm having my really good source of protein, and pepitas are an extra sense like source of
Hmm.
protein and fiber and fat, and these cheese grits and asparagus, like it's like this is it. Like I didn't, there was not a single thing I was sacrificing. I was like, who knows? Maybe the cheese grits are 40 grams of carbs instead of 30. I've decided that is okay with me. Like, I'm
Hmm.
okay with that, because I'm usually really dialed in really hard the rest of my life. And I don't know, it was nice.
And are there any other areas of your life that you feel like that success has impacted?
I just feel like I was just talking to my husband that like it's very difficult to walk around in a body that you feel is betraying you.
Mm.
Like I felt like I was doing everything right. I was eating in this very restricted way. I felt like I was, working out 5 or 6 days a week. I was like really, and still, pre-diabetic, and I just felt like I was really defeated, and I don't, and like I was working against my body. Like my body was the enemy. And I just don't think that's a really great way to move around in the world. Like I think that really does seep in and affect kind of your outlook on everything. You just kind of, and now I feel like I'm working with and for my body. It's
Hmm.
a very different experience. Um, and so just giving myself more grace and gentleness in how I approach that. And I think it does spill out into everything. I think just how I move through the world. Like I just think, like, I'm trying to be kinder to myself, and that it impacts everything. So,
Hmm.
I think it's, nothing happens in our lives in isolation. And so I think that, like, changing that relationship, I mean, it makes socialization easier. It makes, going out with friends easier. It makes parenting easier. It even makes, my exercise easier, because it feels like something I'm doing to, it's something I'm doing because I love my body, not something I'm doing because my body is betraying me. And that is a very different way to think about moving through the world.
Absolutely. That is so impactful for somebody who is going to be watching this, who is in a similar boat where genetically they're predisposed to type 2 and it feels like they've tried everything. It's not quite working. They're not feeling good about it. there's hope that you can find something and get that personalized approach and find what works for you. And you've had such good success with it. I just look forward to seeing how things continue with this.
Me too. I mean, honestly, I do feel like I still have a little bit of trepidation because I
Mm-hmm.
do kind of in the back of my head have that kind of information that, like, as you get older, given your family history with both of your parents being type 2 diabetics, this is a continual effort in just kind of kicking the can down the line and to a point where I can't control it simply through like lifestyle change. But I'm hoping I'm wrong about that the same way that I was wrong, in November when I started. And I also kind of feel like if I'm not wrong, and I
Mm-hmm.
feel like I have better the tools to handle it and to deal with it than I did. I think a lot of that fear, it's still there, but it's not like quite the same dark cloud like that was so oppressive for me when I started.
Right. And that's real life, right? Everything is a work in progress, but I it feels to me that you've done something that's very sustainable. You can continue this for life and you have that knowledge now on what to do and how to do it to be able to have very well managed diabetes. So even though we have that genetic component and things will progress as life progresses, we can still manage it really well and feel in control and not need to rely on medications, at least not for a very long time, which is huge
Right, which is
success.
right, which is the plan. That's the goal.
Yeah,
Yeah.
absolutely. So, what would you say to somebody who's thinking about joining Drop Diabetes? Maybe they've also felt like they've tried everything and it's freaking hopeless. What would you tell them?
I would tell them to do it. I know it's a big commitment of time and energy and quite
Mm-hmm.
honestly financial. And that's one of the reasons why I held off for doing something for so long, and I just felt like I couldn't really justify the finances. And then I just thought, why is my health not worth this investment? Why is like my own physical well-being and mental well-being not worth the investment? And um, I would say if you're on the fence, absolutely do it. If you this sounds like AA. I don't mean it to sound like this, but if you work the program, like if you are honest with yourself and you are accountable to yourself and you take the information in the plan and apply it to your life, it can be life changing. I mean, I am proof of someone who
Mm-hmm.
like was like, and I wasn't that person who would like, not eat carbs all day and then binge cookies, and like I really did not eat a carb. I
Mm-hmm.
did not eat something made from sugar or flour for 4 years. And it got me nowhere. And, within, less than 6 months on this program, I am in a position where I'm enjoying food. I have a less disordered relationship to eating and food. And I ate toast and I ate a potato and the world didn't end. And I lowered my A1C. And,
Mm-hmm.
if you are really committed and serious about taking control of diabetes, like this will work. This
Mm-hmm.
will work. And so if you're on the fence, do it. Like I
Yeah.
would say do it. Don't put it off. Your health and you matter more than, any excuse that, and I don't mean that in like a shameful way. I'm just saying that, like, especially I know for as moms and women, even women, just in general, women are socialized to put themselves last. And you deserve to have a healthy relationship with food and feel good in your own body. I think it's a no-brainer to just do it. Hi, Kitty.
Yeah. I love what you said with that about, not waiting. You went through 4 years of struggle and you're not alone in that. And so it doesn't have to, if you feel like you've tried everything, it doesn't have to feel so hard. It doesn't
Mm-hmm.
have to be such hard work like we might think it has to be. So it's really great to hear that perspective from you.
Yeah. In fact, it was shockingly easy for me. It was shockingly
Yeah.
easy. I know for a lot of people, like I already had the exercise as a runner. I had that part. And I know that's not true for everybody, and I know for a lot of people that's the hardest thing to do. And so I don't want to diminish that. But in terms of the food, it wasn't. It was really easy. It
Hmm.
was really easy. And so there's really, I just I wish I had done it sooner. Honestly, I could have saved myself a lot of mental struggle if I had just done it earlier.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. Is there anything else you want to add today?
Just that, I mean, if you're watching this and you're on the fence or you're trying to decide, you owe it to yourself to do something for yourself. It's been a really positive experience, and I know that I have these tools, and I also know that I have the support of other people who are going through similar things, and from you, Megan, and that, and I did know, like, if I had gotten numbers that weren't where we wanted them to be, I knew that that wasn't like the end, that we like had a relationship where I could go back to you and say, okay, this is what it is. What else do we need to look at? What do we need to dial in? And reading articles on the internet cannot give that to you. They really can't. And so, I think that the combination holistically of all the different parts of the program have been a really positive experience for me. And I'm really grateful that I took that leap of faith and just did it.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, thank you so much, Hillary, for talking. I think this is going to be amazing for so many people to relate to, from your position as someone with pre-diabetes in that genetic component. And so it's been really good to get to chat with you.
Well, thank you.
Yes.
I'm glad that you asked me to do it, and I hope it can help somebody. So
Yeah.
thank you.